Welcome to The Property Perspective, a podcast by Knight Frank Australia. We'll share expert analysis from industry leaders, focus on key trends and forecasts, and bring you the latest topics shaping Australia's property market.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Atkins. I'm the National Head of Asset Management Services at Knight Frank.
And I'm Jenine Cranston, ESG partner and head of ESG, I guess.
Yeah. And we have been having some amazing conversations over the last year. We've been having a lot of really interesting conversations about how we as the property industry can do better. And we kind of realised that we should be sharing those conversations because there's a lot that we all need to be thinking about. Those of us who own buildings, manage buildings, who are investing in and developing buildings, all of those, and who are tenanting them, occupying them. So we thought we would
Kick off today.
Bring the conversation to a podcast.
Our very first podcast, and we are virgin podcasters.
Yes.
So I think we've got a lot of work to do in property, where 40%, the property sector is responsible for 40% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions, and we use 50% of the world's materials. And it was made no more starkly to me when I sat at the Green Building Council's Transform last year. It was in early March. And somebody stood up and said, today is the day we exceeded our planetary boundaries, which meant that we'd used more resources in March than we should have been allocated for a year. And there was this deathly silence across the 350 people.
So
on that happy note.
Yeah, on that happy note. So we all come back in asset management. We all come back from the Christmas holidays and head into the year ahead and budget season and getting all sorts of things up and running within the buildings for the year. And then we suddenly realise we're in February and Earth Hour is suddenly a month away. And Earth Hour is a big event in a lot of the management teams around the country. It's an opportunity to reach out and connect with tenants, occupants of the building, and work with them to achieve an outcome of no lights on in the building for an hour. This is usually in commercial office that this is focused on. It's a little harder to do in the industrial and logistics and retail and healthcare. But the teams put a lot of focus into having those conversations with the tenants, having the conversations with contractors in order to prepare the buildings, make sure it's safe to do.
Yeah.
And the question that occurred to me was, is this a good use of our time and focus, right? This 1 hour, is it a productive thing or is it actually just something that ticks a box and gives people an opportunity to feel better about themselves at a time when we probably should be really searching for how to do more?
Really good question, isn't it? Because we've got a lot to do, as I mentioned, but there's a lot of competing areas for capital and time. And I see that a lot with our clients. Do they spend on ESG? Or do they spend on other areas? And so I think it's a really valid question to ask. And so we did some research. So in preparation for the podcast, Lisa and I had a really good look at the Earth Hour website. And I was involved, or I know the guy who was working in the very first Earth Hour. And so it was a really grassroots movement then. WWF, with a project manager from PwC, kicked it off.
In Sydney.
In Sydney.
2007.
And now it's grown to, was 190 countries, or a magnificent number like that, and millions and millions of people. And it has really changed the course of policy and legislation in a broad range of countries.
Apparently the world's largest landmarks around the world, including the Empire State Building, the London Bridge, and the Opera House and Harbour Bridge in Sydney, are all without lights for that 1 hour. It's like the reach of it is been quite extensive from those humble beginnings in Sydney.
But to be fair, that it's 1 hour. And so I was a little critical of what Earth Hour had achieved. So in 2007, when this was kicked off, the world wasn't in a climate crisis at the time. So we're asking a lot from Earth Hour to do what we need to do, but I think it's unfair also to ask them to shoulder the load. But also Earth Hour's grown up. It's really grown
Yeah.
up. And we'd encourage people to go to their website to look at what they are now doing and the resources around this, because it's quite phenomenal. So don't think of Earth Hour in the way we used to, which is with your children at home turning off the lights, or in your office. There is a far-reaching and really sophisticated program around
set
Earth
of
Hour
resources
now.
and
And you
supports.
can... WWF is phenomenal in its programs, and so it's probably remiss of me not to have jumped back on in the past. But here we are, knowing a lot more about Earth Hour. But let's debate the time spent and the resources spent on this activity as opposed to other activities.
So, I mean, I think from a from an asset management perspective, first of all, we should say, so Earth Hour is coming up 25th of March, 8:30
to 9:30.
to 9:30 on the 25th of March. That's a Saturday. For those of us who are, implementing Earth Hour in a commercial building, what that really means is that on the Friday, everybody, and for any offices where people aren't there on a Friday, on the Thursday and the Friday, everybody is making arrangements to take home their laptops, turn off their monitors, turn off the lights, do everything they can to ensure that at 8:30 on Saturday night there are no lights on in the building. And then the facilities managers teams are working with the Sparkies or whoever else needs to be involved to make sure the whole building is safely without lights.
Yeah.
But to me, this is a mobiliser of conversations and relationships. So it is one of those moments in the year where people actually remember to stop and have this conversation about how can we be more attentive to energy usage, how can we work together to achieve better outcomes. And that is actually what we need from our, asset management, our property management teams. That is what we need to have happening all the time, is better relationships, deeper relationships, closer partnerships, and trying harder to do more. And so...
well, it's pretty critical. This is a decade of action. If we don't get really serious stuff done between now and the 1st of January 2030, we're at real risk of not achieving the Earth staying below the 1.5 degree warming. So we've got 82 months and 1 week. And I hear the federal government now talk about how many months we've got, and it makes it really critical. So jumping in on that notion of it makes us really conscious about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Perhaps an area that we can extend it to is, we talked about it earlier, Lisa, turning off the switches on your monitor would save businesses a whole lot of power, energy use on an annual basis. And we now have better technology in workstations where a QR code can activate all the power required. But for those of us who are still using very capable previous technologies, we need to turn them off. And there was no more stark statistic for me than apparently in the US, people not turning off equipment, devices at home, uses
idle devices.
Idle devices. Uses 100% of the power of 12 power stations. Now that is completely unnecessary. Even if we were to eradicate 3/4 of that, it is a significant effect to the world. Look, quite frankly, without America and the big emitters on board, we're going to find it difficult, but we all have a part to play.
Yeah.
Says 8 billion people.
So I think that is one of the things that I really like about the web resources that the Earth Hour website offers, is just inspiration and information about all of those things. I mean, things that I learned on there about where we're up to right now is that 1 in 6 species on this planet are now at risk of extinction.
So at least in Australia.
It goes well beyond energy reduction, right? This is about biodiversity and just this is about our planet. Their hashtag for this year is Time Out for Nature, and encouraging people just to take some time to think about this planet.
Yeah, indeed. And Australia is among the 24 global deforestation fronts, or Eastern Australia specifically.
Yeah.
We're the only developed nation on that list. That is astounding.
Yeah.
We've got the most beautiful natural environment and we're literally letting it slip away.
Yeah.
That was made.
We are deliberately logging it. Like,
Yeah.
it's not happening by accident.
Yeah, indeed.
It's madness.
Well, what I like, going back to the question of Earth Hour's significance, it's had a really positive impact. There are a lot of initiatives which are debated, and we had a conversation about Greta Thunberg in the taxi last night.
Yeah.
But you hear really positive sentiment around Earth Hour. So it's been formed and managed for the last 15 years in a really positive way. And the fact that it remains very relevant and it has expanded its remit, well, I was maybe sitting on the fence coming into this podcast, but I can tell you I'm back in support, Lisa.
Yeah. I mean, I think, in terms of our reasons to be motivated to pay attention to this, those statistics about species at risk of extinction, deforestation, apparently by 2050 we will have more plastic than fish in the ocean. And every 2 seconds, the equivalent of a football field is felled in forest. And according to the website, we have 12 years. The United Nations says that we have 12 years to avoid a complete climate catastrophe. So that where we were in 2007...
And I think that's probably giving us more time, because there are tipping points that we don't know whether we're hitting or not, which we may be close to. So I'm calling it 82 months and 1 week. And the reason I'm here at Knight Frank is because in my life it's a decade of action. Yeah. So we're here to get really great stuff done with our clients. And I think, as we say, there's a lot to do in property, but there's a lot of great stuff we can do. And we know Australian property to be really motivated. You look at the world-leading developments we have here and the brands who are really the bright lights of international development in sustainable building, but still a lot of work to do. 55% of our local office stock is existing secondary stock, and that's harder to decarbonise potentially, and its future use is at times in question. So looking at value is a really big question for us. Yeah.
So I think, the things that we can all be thinking about as we're approaching Earth Hour, we can be thinking about how best to do that hour and how best to leverage the things that we learnt in that hour. We learnt the importance and the ease of turning off the monitor before we left the office at the end of the day. Okay, so how do we systemize that into a routine practice for everyone in our office? How do we repeat the things that we just did for Earth Hour? But then there's also that broader piece around how do we get more strategic and think bigger as organisations. So there are really good resources on the website around how to set science-based targets and how to create a climate action plan if you don't already have one. That is something that Janine's team, that's what they advise on. So if anyone needs help with that, call Janine.
Call us.
Call Jenine Cranston. I think then, if you are an owner of a building, ask your teams who are managing that building, what's the plan for Earth Hour? And what's the plan for then leveraging the relationships that were cemented and the good work that was done for Earth Hour into an ongoing stream of benefit for the community in that building? And for those of you who are property managers, facilities managers, occupiers of buildings, it's time to just get ready. It's time to have a think and make a plan. The resources, if you work for Knight Frank, the resources will be coming out soon, and we'll work with you and support you. But you need to put some focus on this. I think it really is.
Look, don't be afraid to take action.
Yeah.
And we're all at different stages of our journey, and it was very clear that I've joined a deeply collaborative tribe in arriving at the Green Building Council's conference last year. I was carted off to see my direct competitors and meet them because we cannot do this alone. And my point of saying that is we understand that people are at different parts of the journey, and there's no shame in that. it's time now to just get in and get stuff done. And we too at Knight Frank, we've made a commitment to go carbon net zero by 2030, and we're in the midst of gathering our data to take action. And for a global company that's quite involved, we're thankful to be on the journey. We've got this audacious target of 2027, and I can tell you once I roll that out with the team, they're going to be pinning those technical ears back and getting stuck in. So, look, there is no better time to start. And there's this lovely saying, when was the best time to plant a tree? Well, 30 years ago. Well, we can't be doing that in this instance, but we can be going now.
Yeah. Next best time is today. All right, so we'll leave it there. That was fun. Thank you very much, Jenine, for the conversation.
Goodness gracious, that was in one role. We must be gold star people.
Yeah, well, we'll see how we'll see how that comes out. But we'd love to hear people's comments.
Absolutely,
we'll be bringing more conversations. We'll be bringing in some people to interview that we think you'd love to hear from. And if there are topics that you'd like to hear from us, just let us know.
Absolutely, don't make this an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Before you go, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on the next episode of The Property Perspective, when we'll be back to share our take on more key trends and topics shaping Australia's property market. You can also follow us on LinkedIn or visit our website at knightfrank.com.au for more information. Thanks for tuning in. It may be the end of the show, but we're always your partners in property.